Welcome everyone to a long overdue episode of Breaking News, Everything Broken in the World, IT Insecure tonight. Here, meanwhile, as usual, some news German, but don't worry, as usual, I translate them. This is a German news site arguing here or writing some, in their humble opinion, even Google is not capable of updating Android. So what happened? So Google so far was the exception of providing more often security and stuff updates, and even they, of course, the major vendors like here's this Samsung stuff and other fun stuff, often even far behind. And even Google was caught now not having some vital Linux kernel patch. Can I also close all those stupid ads? And so that was in the beginning of October. Maybe we have even covered this here, or maybe not. There are so many insecurities, especially in the Linux kernel, as we have seen here. And so this is a general Linux kernel upstream, so even affecting your desktop servers and smart TVs and everything. And Google even included this patch, according to this summary here anyway, in their kind of Linux flavor kernels. And because it wasn't marked as security or with a CVE handle there, they themselves forgot to maintain it and push it in their regular pixel updates. And the problem is, of course, well, first of all, thumbs up for covering this, just like we cover here all the peak bugs and insecurities. So at least some other, also the other German news sites that we covered the other week, calling out like Catalina, macOS 10.11 stuff being way too broken and so on. So even other major news sites discover that not everything in IT and the big Silicon Valley companies is amazing. And ironically, even they write this here. So ironically, even Google Project Zero themselves, that even I mentioned here, calling out with 180 or so Android security update the other month before that. And there, ironically, I said maybe the Google Zero Project Zero should actually maybe evaluate and investigate and security scan their own stuff, because, yeah, ironically, they found this bug, and yet there you see big companies, a left hand and a right hand, and 10,000 people in between. And yeah, also, of course, recurring theme here of monolithic kernel, maybe not the most amazing stuff. If there would be a small hardware abstraction layer or microkernel stuff and user space, not kernel modules like a microkernel, then you could also update all those stuff. The hardware abstraction microkernel stuff most likely never to be touched, and then nicely compatible drivers that could all be independently updated, and most likely, in my humble opinion, would be a much more stable, secure, and amazing also to develop. Certainly something we should further look into here. In similar news, this ransomware here, even in, so this is again all we were overworked this week with all the amazing Apple peak bugs there in macOS 10.15 or macOS. Yeah, macOS 10.15 is double X. Anyway, so even in, well, even German courts here next door, just some blocks away, ransomware there, and big damages, or so they say. But no worries, the workers there in the court, they can still use fax machines. Yes, of course, something that even we don't have anymore. And yeah, apparently here's a could take longer. And why do I call this out here? This is so hospitals in the USA, hospitals in Germany, UK, laws, courts, and everything, and even huge production, oil refineries, uranium enrichment stuff there in Iran and wherever. And yeah, it's everywhere. And also this is a consequence, yeah, Teto, however that is pronounced in English. And this is exactly, well, insecure stuff, what we here repeatedly have called out. And monoculture, everything running Windows, at least if everything is a little bit insecure, whether Windows, Mac or Linux, at least mix it. So if something fails, then not your whole police station, hospital, oil refinery or court is down. Ironically, they even, it sounds as somewhere like they changed the hardware, which is a little bit funny. Like some people are already joking, too many bits broken in the hardware or something of that sort. But yeah, government at best changing hardware because hacked. In more amazing news, someone hacked back. And then we also go here to more English-speaking news. So a web administrator in Bavaria in Germany apparently hacked back. Certainly something that is amazing. However, we cannot recommend you to do at home. So don't blame us if you hack back and then your local law enforcement hunts you for hacking back. So someone, apparently some web developer in Bavaria here in Germany, had some malware on his server. I slightly wonder, so this is usual crypto malware stuff, and they certainly wanted money for that. And so he took it in his own hands and hacked back the malware control center here. And apparently something that's getting into NAS systems of QNAP. He apparently even paid €670. Wow. He analyzed the Trojan and this allowed him to understand how the command server works, and he hacked their back over an open web shell, something to get into their PHP systems. There you see even the control, everything insecure, even the control center of this. But they write here, so as I said in the beginning of this, we cannot condemn this. Do not try this at home. Hacking back is most likely usually against your local laws, which is of course funny because often governments, even the German government in their cyber command talks about hacking back abilities. So yeah, so much to that. Anyway, so getting into computer systems, even of your hackers and ransomware criminal stuff is usually not is usually against the law and crime and such. So don't try this at home. In similar news, everything unsecure, even at Juniper. No surprise there. And yet 2019-10 security bulletin, Junos OS, something in denial of service due to crash in process under heavy conditions, and more, so many of them, so many denial of service, so as a proxy feature, denial of service everywhere. So yeah, wherever you look, your latest and greatest network gear, persistent cross-site scripting, vulnerability in JWeb, and so on and so on. Just if you thought your regular overpriced network gear would be more secure than other vendors, usually mentioned here insecure stuff allegedly as per their stuff. To show you something more amazing, I should have slightly thought it's this. Yeah, sorry, this week had no time to find other sources, so, but I translate anyway. So SIM cards of apparently allegedly 29 countries can be attacked over SMS, so proprietary, specially crafted SMS, so short message system. Messages can hack your SIM card currently, so they say here. So apparently lots of South America, here Africa, but also Italy and other stuff here, left and right and in between. And so they can apparently attack SIM cards and get information of the mobile phone, the SIM card, and maybe probably make phone calls and send SMS, and yeah, also old-fashioned crap, no surprise there. We had this already in other news some time ago, that here also it's I remember here from Chaos Computer Congress some years ago, S7 protocol or what this was, highly insecure, just the usual stuff. So yeah, old-fashioned crap. So certainly all this decade-old stuff, highly insecure, no surprise there. Welcome everyone in the audience. And also S7 protocol, according to the Hacking Congress here in Berlin some years ago, highly insecure. They could just send S7 protocol messages all over the place, and allegedly they put some firewalls. There you see even S7 protocol stuff, even there they had to bring up firewalls. I mean, the protocol is totally broken. You can just send everything. What do? Yeah, you put there some firewall filtering some messages, the usual stuff. Thanks for asking how we're doing. We are relatively fine-ish. More to this maybe in another live stream. You see many tabs open here, so too many stuff broken and also some controversy. If you are into controversy, stay here for a couple more minutes. A little bit more amazing news. The Element Intel shows PCI Express card with CPU, memory and SSD. Actually realize another German news, but anyway, you're an international English speaking audience, you see English Google there, then you probably will survive some German news summary here. So the Element, a new form of compute model that is some dual slot PCI Express X16 connector and relatively power delivering with some Xeon processor or something. Actually funny, the news is from Anatech. Could probably, yeah, anyway, this week was busy. So prototype, and in a way this is of course cool. Of course you could do something with just the Origin 200 when in good old-fashioned times they had 2048 nodes of Cray-Link aka NumaLink connected nodes there on supercomputing stuff, and I actually always thought it would be cool if you could actually have some non-unified memory architecture stuff with plugging in more processors into some server board or something. So maybe that is where we are heading. Of course, we have seen this not only with GPUs, obviously, but they're totally different architecture, and Xeon Phi for this Larrabee kind of what they once intended as GPU but didn't really become a GPU. So of course we had compute isolate stuff, also physics X, but this is here with a Xeon processor, so certainly interesting stuff. And I would certainly imagine how cool that would be if this would have been for decades already more flexible. I personally feel the consumer space is going to thin and light, so certainly only something for total enthusiasts and server grade stuff. But nonetheless, it is cool. Imagine you would have like an Octane kind of thing, although yes, heavy, expensive, but just if you could swap there in old-fashioned times, but even in nowadays you have a Mac Pro and you could swap in some new processor, especially this previous decade-old cheese grater. And in a way this would be cool. Maybe actually it would be a much cooler processor if we could get into a more flexible architecture. That imagine if your baseboard, and of course this exists, right? So there have been in decades ago server boards that was just an ISA backplane, like 2 decades ago. Also for industrial ISA PC something. And in a way it would be more flexible, right? Imagine a backplane board with only the PCIe signaling or whatever, and you could plug into that all those kind of processor nodes. I would actually personally not have this with USB and Ethernet and HDMI apparently, but it would be a nice, interesting, flexible thing to leave all your backplane stuff in there and just swap out computing nodes. But yeah, certainly interesting. Probably, I guess, as esoteric and expensive this stuff usually is, they even write here for primary for pro users. Yeah, no shit, Sherlock, don't guess that. People plug this into their Thin and Light. However, that being said, it would of course be interesting to have this Thin and Light for exactly this Ultrabooks and other MacBook Air or whatever the Thin and Ultralight. Imagine this PCIe USB 4 or Thunderbolt, and you plug into your Ultra, you walk around with your 15 watt Ultra Thin and Light stuff, and at the desk plug in your USB 4 Thunderbolt cable whatsoever and have their real epic Ryzen whatever in there. That's certainly just like a GPU, like GPU, eCPU. Maybe I should patent it. Actually, fun fact, 15 years ago, I was so pissed with the Macs overheated. I was actually considering, no kidding, do we have, no, not really. Anyway, I was actually considering, and for this kind of stuff, I actually disclosed on my blog some patent ideas. I was considering with this overheated base stuff, always burning my labs and other best things, that I was considering to patent having the compute stuff behind the display. And in retrospect, of course, nowadays we have tablets, and also, as this was 2005 or something, I had the idea, just for this overheating thermal throttling max, right? So even then, 15 years, there you see small independent business also having innovative ideas, and yet the big companies have the patents, and at the end of this live stream we will have another patent story. But I should really have done it just for the sake, like, hey, I have a freaking patent here. And of course nowadays I think there was at least some, recently there was a special real laptop with what I think it was some gamer thing with gamer laptop with CPU behind display, something, whatever that was, it Alienware or full-fledged, I don't know, something had, actually whatever that was, if you remember what that was. But so this was exactly my patent. So not only with tablets, right? I mean, basically this was kind of a little bit before tablets, but certainly you could always try to get the patent so that it also covers anything in the future, like most people do, and it would have applied to tablets where the CPU stuff is behind the display. But in any case, there's also at least now one laptop. In other insecure news, also German news anyway, but I wanted to cover this here also because ADA or something, ADA, I have never heard. And we had this in previous news, right? So last month we had here German health insurance, something, whatever, app insecure already 2 times. Because what is more amazing than insecure once being insecure twice? And here's some security researcher having some app review week apparently, and in some quick check, and he found here that this app is leaking stuff to Facebook trackers. So they, even in Germany, I don't even know, maybe this, I don't know. So I've never heard about this, but I'm actually quite ignoring all this kind of data collection bullshit because everything is insecure. I don't have my private data in there. But yeah, so even health stuff interfacing with Facebook SDKs for no good reasons. Advertising ID, you name it. And yeah, also encryption, that's also the problem, tracking what is actually being tracked with encryption. You need to try to, if you really wanted to analyze this, you would need to have an own certificate and maybe try to man in the middle this with installing certificates and then hope they don't do certificate pinning and otherwise work around this in some sort, because otherwise he's also then comparing data with an old version without encryption and stuff, and apparently quite some stuff. And yeah, exactly this stuff you don't want to have your health app sending stuff to Facebook. And yeah, all this tracking craze is really, in my opinion, getting out of hand, and this is why I cover this here. Select birthday, tracking birthday, Facebook event name, creation birthday, enter name, insurance, tracking, whatever. Anyway, you get the ideas here. Allegedly, I was too busy, couldn't really read everything of this. In more similar news, code glitch may have caused errors in more than 100 published studies, and this is also why I want to bring this here to a broader attention of hopefully more people being interested in this kind of stuff, because we had this last week where Excel allegedly most likely polluted quite a lot of gene studies. I think this was like some gene like SEP something, and the SEP was interpreted as months, and then Excel automatically converted this to some other internal representation and basically ruining all this gene data. And we have now something similar here with Python, I think it was. Self-correcting, but nothing can be taken for granted. The discovery is a reminder that science is collaborative really. Hawaii have uncovered a glitch in a piece of code that could have yielded incorrect results in over 100 published studies. Glitch caused results in common chemistry composition to vary depending on the operating system used, causing discrepancies among Mac, Windows and Linux systems, the researchers, and also monoculture and running, and also knowing what you're doing. Just with Excel you enter as something, and just so not using Excel and Python and PHP, Perl, you name it. The simple glitch is in the original script calls into question the conclusion of significant number of papers on a wide range of topics. And there you see checking, double checking, even on our own benchmark. We were not immune, right? I've run here some benchmark, and only after a couple of benchmarking in this open bench, I realized, crap, I ruined all this benchmarking data with having other archive input data on all these machines. So yeah, you can never check enough and double and triple check. And yeah, certainly also some manual review is required, right? Also nowadays, putting everything in a PC or even in a school, kids growing up with this and taking all this computation for granted, and in the end everything is buggy and errors spread and so on through all the calculations. In similar tracking news, yeah, slightly unsorted this week, sorry for that. You watch the tracking ecosystem of over-the-top TV streaming devices here, and University of Chicago, Princeton University and University of Chicago, and a number of internet-connected TV devices has growing significantly in recent years, and so on. The number of, yes, we had this, and they found here basically a lot of tracking, and this is why I called this out before. So this is recurring news. This is just what already was our humble opinion, and just months after months, papers, findings. Welcome everyone. They're new in the audience, and exactly what we predicted, what we called out, what we get here confirmed again and again. I personally wouldn't want, so I personally would never buy a smart TV. I said it again, I had for 20 years, I didn't have a TV. When we watch something, then only on our normal Linux desktop devices and or on, yeah, whatever. So I would never like buy an old-fashioned TV thing, and certainly not a smart TV thing, because even, for example, at my father's, I warned him, don't buy this smart TV shit, because in a year or two, this stuff will not work anymore. And it's exactly like this. It was first a Philips and later a Samsung or something. And first of all of the smart TVs my father had became more buggy. With each software update, they became more buggy, which is also hilarious. And then in all of them, so first some 5 years ago, and now with the new device, and there you see, you have a smart, previously you had a CRT TV for 15 years, now you have a smart TV, and after 5 years, with each software update, it became more buggy, and then 5 years later, all the smart features didn't work anymore. He sometimes used Skype doesn't work anymore because API disablements on Skype side, and then YouTube stopped working because YouTube desktop API changes whatsoever, and exactly as I predicted, no surprise to no one. And then on top of this, tracking, because yeah, certainly, why not? That is what a smart TV needs to do. And I think I read already somewhere that some vendors actually said that TVs would be more expensive because they refinance some of the production cost with smart features, which is of course hilarious, right? This is exactly like ink on your printer, where in previous times the cheap entry-level stuff for $79 at your local supermarket was actually more expensive to manufacture, and the manufacturers, the vendors, only made then the profit with selling you the overpriced ink there at small doses of environmental polluting plastic cartridges. Comments there. Audience, they got a 720p from someone who was going to throw it out, replaced it with an inverted transformer, and it works perfectly. Actually, that reminds me, we have two TVs, and both we got for free for neighbors. I have actually one crappy TV, and the TV that we never turned on, and one at home. So we have a TV from neighbors, which I actually wanted to throw out. Probably if someone wants in Berlin some 720, such kind of TV crap, but yeah. So I would personally never buy this. Don't let those companies spy on you. I would rather get a quality display and use it for real computer work all day long. And this is exactly what this breaking IT news is here to call this out. In my opinion, this is totally unacceptable that all this stuff is tracked, and what is he even? Roku, tier list intercepted, limited ads enabled, channel completed. Anyway, you can read the study here. It's not acceptable, and yeah, we will see this recurrently, but we have some more amazing news, which is we will Raku Perl creator blessed new name for version 6 of text-wrangling lingo. So Perl 6 said to be reincarnated as a Raku, as favored by Larry Wall. It is slightly hilarious. For me, it's also this Perl 6. Certainly, they have created a new VM, a new flexible VM as base for Perl 6, and it's a little bit like soon probably can get a Vaporware award. And also in other news, it is as long coming and being released soon as Wayland probably. And it's a little bit hilarious. It's of course, nobody knows if you Perl is, as much as I don't like it personally, it has at least a name and followership. And I understand Perl 6 is incompatible and in the making for over a decade or 15 years or so. And in my opinion, it's a little bit stupid move. This Raku tells you nothing, and it's of course no brand recognition. And yeah, it's hilarious. And I also wonder, maybe instead of arguing about their name, maybe they should finally get Perl 6 out into the open. Comments in the audience: only thing in the house is internet access, runs Linux as even IP desk phone with spiral cord. Yeah, that is amazing. And also how this is also, since 2 decades with Linux and open source, people wanted to take back control, take the power back from the machine. And nowadays everyone, all the lemmings, only jumping over the cliff to Apple's macOS and Google's Chrome and Windows. And this is also why I started this YouTube channel, to call stuff more out and promote and do more stuff, because what have we achieved the last 20 years? Not much. Desktop Linux market share is still in the lower % range, and we have insecure Windows and macOS with peak bugs all over the place, and people have learned little, right? They take every smart TV, every cloud connected thermostat and smoke detector and doorbell and even Amazon's keyless entry, something for in the house delivery stuff, and all the cloud stuff, right? It breaks. Not even the smart TV, everything breaks sooner than later, right? I think the other week, I missed so many weeks to the week was so busy. I think there was also in the week some stuff stopped working. I forgot what it was. So whatever stopped working. All right, I think it was even some doorbell. I think whatever, you find it in the notes. You have a doorbell, Internet of Shit doorbell, and the doorbell stops working when the company goes on. And also, the stuff should be locally connected, right? It means the cloud stuff is really a really wrong development, because if you have your doorbell like in old-fashioned times, or like most people still have today, the normal wired doorbell sometimes with camera, it works forever, right? And then this Internet of crap stuff in the cloud, first of all, your doorbell stuff goes to China or Russia or India or versus the United States, and have all your data collected with the doorbell, with your camera in front of the house. And then, worst of all, not only people and secret services spying on all your data, there comes day X, the company goes bankrupt, or simply they stop supporting this product, and then your doorbell stops working because they turn off their server. Certainly everything hilarious. We have quite some comments. People want to F-check clouds, IoT smart devices, welcome the graver. Market share is slowly growing, but it's much better than it was 5 or 10 years ago. Yeah, that certainly. Also, I think Linux market share certainly is growing due to macOS peak bugs. A lot of pro users, professional web designers, developers, cloud people, and everyone. As far as I've seen and heard, a lot of people, at least from that. And certainly this is also why Microsoft is so much more open these days with the Windows subsystem for Linux, reverse named stupidly thing we had. Anyway, certainly why Microsoft needs to do this for more people jumping ship for insecurities and failing updates. Yeah, 6 or 7%. Linux desktop, Linux is powering everything, even Apple uses Linux for hosting. That says it all. Actually, I was curious about this. If you have data, this I would like to know. What I know from Apple is Apple pays Microsoft Azure and maybe even Azure and Amazon AWS. And if you have, I always wondered what they use precisely. Do they run macOS on Microsoft Azure or AWS? That would be really interesting to know if someone has more concrete data. Or do they even run macOS with the KVM virtualization that Alexander from Graph started and I kept maintaining? And that would be an ironic development in this part of the universe. In similar news, your hippie pro privacy pro freedom Apple that you also love, Hong Kong protest safety app banned from the iOS store, and certainly something that is quite close to my heart and totally unacceptable. And there you see the Wallet Garden app review stuff. This is, in my opinion, like pure censorship, and exactly why we can't accept big corporations control our devices, be this a smartphone, be this a desktop, be this a server or tablet. This should be, I said this before, we should be able to install whatever we want to install. I hope all of those protesters install the Alt store we had in this previous news weeks, this alternative Wi-Fi syncing Alt store for iOS. And this is totally unacceptable, right? And this is not even hacking. This is just a pure cloud funding, crowdsourced platform for sharing data. And of course, other news sites covered this. It is similar to Waze, where you report, even on Waze or other apps, you can allegedly report police controls, speed measurement, like in Germany, United States, where is the sheriff sitting below which bridge? How is it different from on Waze reporting, here's a sheriff sitting with his laser gun under the bridge, usually hiding behind the bush. And so it is not different. If you use ways to break, to avoid law enforcement in the United States, how is it different from any other app? Or, by the way, also creative use, right? You could maybe even use Waze, this car, something automotive app or whatever, mapping app. So creative use of mapping stuff for 200. Use any other app, right? Put your police or military protesting enforcement stuff as traffic enforcement stuff. So creative use suggestions there. But yeah, and also this is more comments in the audience. Security is yeah. So, in my opinion, totally unacceptable. If this would be hacking or whatever, but in any way, this is exactly what happens when we leave the IT stuff and app and even our own, right? By the way, fun fact, although of course our exact scan is entirely different from apps used for people to protest, and even our own app is not yet approved. We had it like 5 times rejected now because allegedly it crashed something, and there you see, even we don't get our productivity app into the App Store because it crashes for Apple, which, by the way, Apple, it worked before, right? You approved it 100 times and now you broke your own OS and now you approve a 99% better update just because it still crashes for you. Anyway, previous stream, fuck you, Apple. And here still, why I'm getting out of that for sure here. And if you compare this for exactly stuff like, if I'm allowed to compare this to the prime example of usually Second World War, if this would happen today in a similar situation, and certainly in some parts of the world it is in somewhat, those people who back in those 75 years ago were hiding people, were helping people, they are now applauded as heroes and having courage. And where is the courage? They are using the word courage, how you pronounce, darn it, my English certainly triggers people. So they have the courage to remove a headphone jack, but they don't have the courage, what a word, usually pronunciation, practicing before the live stream for 200. And they don't even have that in helping people to protest suppression and standing up for democracy in Hong Kong. It's hilarious. And of course, in a letter, so nowadays they can't even, for this little, this is not even on the scale of wars on that level there yet, at least hopefully, and praying for those people there. But they even defend the decision to remove this because, of course, they are so deep in the S there in China with the government. And that is, of course, what does happen if year after year you ignore this and you use those cheap manufacturing conditions, and certainly the whole manufacturing conditions, right, at Foxconn, so overworked, so minimum wage for just dollars an hour or day or extremely low, and that the people are so overworked and even think about suicide and jump from the roof and stuff to a point where they need suicide prevention net there. It is hilarious, right? So there is a courage there on that level. They manufacture it for the lowest prices in China, maximum their profit, and yet even if it's the smallest protest help, they do not even have the courage to stand up for such kind of suppressive regimes and governments. And it is really sad, and certainly why you should understand that companies like this are not your best friends, neither Apple nor Microsoft nor Google. What people trapped in the reality distortion field still praise and worship companies like this. It is hilarious. Scratch button seems to be approved by Apple now. If you mean this app, no, there was a back and forth, and it was finally rejected. So I think it was in the App Store, it was approved, then it was rejected, then it was reapproved, and then it was rejected again, as far as I understand. Welcome, Christian. So the whole recurring audience is here. Also comments, recommend Postcard Security Null by Steve Gibson. It's a great podcast discussing all the latest security problems. And also, yeah, this is why I understand it's a little bit niche and a little bit political here, but I feel I want to try to be to do my part of calling this kind of stuff out. And imagine on Windows, if it would be like old-fashioned Windows desktop you would carry on. You could install any app you wanted, and nowadays your apps are censored away for not even good reasons, right? And again, in my opinion, this happens exactly when it's the same also with so many other places that we for sure will get into with other weekly news. So he even defended this. So this is October the 10th, this was October the 2nd. So this is already some days ago because last week we were busy here. So many days later, Tim Apple even defended this. Over the past several days, they received credible information. For allegedly, it was used to hurt police. But honestly, you can always use everything. Everything has two sides. You can use this to avoid getting into police and hit and put away. And the same, where does it end? It is the same in China, it is similar in Russia, it is similar in the USA and Turkey and so on. Even in Turkey, the internet was censored. Even there, what did people do in Turkey a year or two ago? They sprayed, because it's just the name server but blocked. Also, right, government doing IT, what do they use to block the internet? They just block the name servers. And as far as I remember, in Turkey, people sprayed name servers like 111.444 or whatever, the universal name servers. Of course, it only worked some days until the government figured to also block those IP addresses, and why we need more encryption. Everything needs to be encrypted, just because for governments not being able to censor your name servers. And yeah, where do you stop? Do you stop with protesters in Hong Kong because you have all your manufacturing and you need nowadays? And why does Apple need this? Because they manufacture so shitty products that even I don't want to buy them anymore, and they lose sales already. And then in this unlimited growth kind of capitalist scenario, they need this growth in China to even sustain their growth, and then they need to do whatever the local government tells them to do just to be able to still sell their freaking iPhones there. It's hilarious. Was my message hidden again? Not sure. I approve everything. We could also solve this. Getting a little bit tired that that I need to approve all your messages, so now you're an administrator or whatever. That is probably for now. Yeah, you are also often blocked, and yeah, so, and where do we stop? There might be, and again, the American companies always like pro democracy, and so often they want a regime change themselves, and then they can't even have a messaging app. And of course, the problem is, of course, already so many apps, VPNs, messengers already not in the Chinese App Store anyway. It is hilarious. I have here more. Yeah, in similar news, unrelated, so this was a big news. Also, there was a big, I didn't include this, I'm very much aware of the Blizzard or so, where they also had a gamer and commenters, presenters speaking about pro Hong Kong, and they were banned for 12 months, huge controversy. If you're into this, you probably heard. Totally not a fan of this either. And it's, in my opinion, it's hilarious, right? And so how this, in my opinion, although I usually trigger, certainly here from Germany, then the people always tell me, but yeah, how can you as German say this? I feel, especially as German, I have to say this, and at least my relatives have not contributed 75 years ago to this situation, and did everything they could not participating into that. And that is, of course, the difference. And there you see the difference of people having courage to need to have one word to practice pronouncing. That is the difference between closing your eyes and just participating, or saying, no, this is a totally legit app, we will not censor this. And there you see how even the largest corporations out there cannot even stand up against regime suppression like this. Until, yeah, big companies are always for freedom and democracy, until it hits their income. Yeah, it is really sad, and why at least we are not a sellout here. And yeah, it needs to be called out. And there you see people call it out on Blizzard gaming stuff or so. And then you could say it's maybe not the right audience there in a game competition. I've not seen it personally. I only, well, maybe I should look it up, but also banning them for 12 months, or even, so they have won something, so certainly not giving them their price, like, I don't know, was it $10,000 or something? I read or heard this other people who spoke at Blizzard or something, some e-gaming stuff, speaking about pro Hong Kong. I think they didn't got their $10,000 price or something. So banning them for a month or two is one thing. 12 months certainly over serious. Also not giving them their price, certainly totally inappropriate. If they have won, this would be like someone at Olympia winning the gold medal, and then he speaks out against some regime, and then, yeah, you don't get your gold medal. No, this is hilarious. If you could tell them, look, this was really not so nice format, please don't do this again. If you do this again, then you can't participate into the future, something of that sort, but certainly not like, hey, banned for 12 months, you don't get your prize. That certainly, and maybe also, look, this might not be the right form or whatsoever, and maybe also just saying, look, maybe a press release like, hey, this, we don't want our, like, basically doing nothing. Maybe the right thing for Blizzard would have been to say, giving a press statements like they do not support political speech in the games. They would appreciate if they understand when people want to voice their concerns, but maybe do this independently after the event, in your own press release or something, and not during game events. That certainly, in my opinion, would be more appropriate reaction to that. What is Christian as new administrator saying? That's one way to solve it. Yeah, that is one way to solve. Somehow I have no idea why some people get there. Anyway, just decided should be hidden on. They've just decided should be hidden on some chats. Same thing happened to whatever. Anyway, we have also one more news of this. Certainly talked long enough about this. Also, more amazing news. More companies and stuff sign out of Facebook's Libra cryptocurrency. Who in his right mind thought that a Facebook cryptocurrency is a good thing to start with? I have no idea. I probably mentioned this shortly in other news, but their coalition apparently 2 thumbs up for that falling apart. eBay, Visa, MasterCard and Stripe jump ship. Yeah, totally, I mean, yeah, not much to see. Didn't expect much else from this anyway, and there you have it. In similar closing news, this news, which we for 50 minutes, trying to keep it under 1 hour, automation crisis. So also other news like Gizmodo here, having an artificial intelligence article, the automation crisis underway right now, just mostly invisible. And yeah, actually I've seen this somewhere. However, someone said, I read an article somewhere a month ago that they have this supermarket stockpiling robot thing here, and some worker called out that this piece of garbage is not even working much, like it's mostly standing in the way, beeping. So like it's trying to move, someone is in the way, blocking some sensor, it stops, it's beeping uncontrolled until some administrator, supervisor comes, presses the everything is okay, please continue button. So there also, I personally don't have the highest hopes for this kind of stuff, but because just as people say, beeping uncontrolled, not doing much, standing in the way, so yeah, amazing you had one job. But certainly for other things, you could certainly, for a totally automated supermarket, I would expect the format of a supermarket changes majorly. Instead of like building robots to adapt to this old-fashioned supermarket setup, I would probably expect to have some kind of, you order it and like you order it on your Linux tablet or desktop, press on a button and you go to a corner store and pick it up. Like they have like some automated warehouse where they put it automatically in some pre-sorted vending machine kind of thing or something. Certainly this to me doesn't look like the best idea here, but certainly we have quite some challenges for the future ahead, not only peak bugs, insecurities, but also automation. And even in the car industry here in Germany or USA and stuff, with Tesla and other electric cars, even German car manufacturers already say electric cars, no surprise, have far less moving parts and they need far less workers to assemble electric cars, because no internal combustion engine with 1000 of parts, moving parts to assemble and stuff. So much less workers for this kind of electronic gear to start with. So huge changes we better start thinking about and preparing for this. Otherwise, future might be slightly disturbed. In similar news, I said this previous beginning of this live stream, stuff I should have patented and people patented. Navy patents a compact nuclear fusion reactor. And this is of course crazy. We don't even have a proper nuclear fusion reactor. And I think in the USA, there is also a large difference, right? I think in Europe, mostly you need to prove that your apparatus is working, as far as I remember anyway, but I'm not a patent expert, a lawyer. I actually hate patents with a passion. But in the USA, you don't need to prove that this stuff even works. And this is also hilarious. The USA really needs to change this if this is true, because certainly the Navy doesn't have a working mobile portable fusion reactor. We don't even have a stationary one. And this patent stuff is hilarious. Certainly here. The whole patent system in the USA for sure. And first of all, stuff should not, mathematical formulas should not be patented like other algorithms like progress bar. I mean, seriously, IBM has a patent of a progress bar, right? And other stupid stuff. And then stuff should also needs to be demonstrated to be working. I mean, it's hilarious, right? So, but why do they do this? Apparently, I'm not sure if it was in this article. They only so the current reactors approximate the size of a building. A relative portable compact fusion reactor, one design to power relative small vehicles, would be a game changer. The Chinese government, allegedly Lockheed Martin and several other private companies, have been made inroads in shrinking the technology. The Navy is hot on the tail. The device, according to the Warzone, could be potentially fit on a boat or an aircraft. So how does the... So yeah, so they only do this proactively, right? So they most likely for sure don't have anything working. So they just file the... And there you see the stupidity and corruption and total useless garbage the US especially, but certainly most of the rest of the world patent system is. You patent some garbage if you have some money and you hope to patent troll the next people who really build it. It's hilarious. Yeah, patent hello world of patent hello fusion portable fusion reactor. It's hilarious. To give some insight into fusion reactors, at least 10 years away from actually do something except consuming energy. Yeah, even in Germany we have this Wendelstein something, and even that did not produce energy, right? I think this is one of the, but this is even research. So Wendelstein 7, is it 7X or something? And so even that is a totally amazing machine, but this is so modular superconducting coils which enable steady state of plasma operation in order to explore the reactor relative to the concept. And even this is right now not even, they actually, so even this, so initially tests were successful and amazing. And I think this was like one year off for like the next, like Gen 2 or Mark 2 of building this up with even more amazing isolating plates and whatnot. Certainly the whole thing looks amazing, but even this, one of the most, I mean, yeah, only here on this channel, 25 years of fusion fusion reactor science here in yeah, this is exactly what it is, right? So this is exactly so that the fusion is here in this specially warped field in this magnetic coils, helium pipes, non-planar coils, and plasma vessel vacuum field. And so this is specifically calculated on supercomputers, as far as I understand, for the most efficient form for the plasma to be trapped there in this magnetic field, kind of like Star Trek kind of reactor kind of amazingness, right? And so even this, and also I think they sent there, as far I read some overview, even there they send energy from a building. They have there even, was it either laser or microwave kind of energy from a next building, sending it in to feed energy to the plasma or something. So yeah, and this is hilarious, right? So 25 years of research here in Germany and other countries, one of the most promising, largest design or something, and then the US Navy comes, oh, by the way, vaporware patent. Also, the good thing is maybe we are likely 25 years away, so maybe the patent expires faster than we even get a portable mobile fusion reactor. But anyway, only here live on this channel, some fusion reactor googling and stuff. I wonder if this was microwave or laser. At least I remember that they had here, so whatever was the energy delivery, so yes, only second round, so 2000, so just 1 year in, successful second round of this new Stellarator record achieved. That was just 2018, so not even 1 year ago. And so I think even they patented some stuff, maybe even the energy. So maybe this was this micro here, by strong microwave heating, record still Reactor value achieved for the energy stored in the plasma by strong microwave heating. The energy content of the plasma exceeds 1 megajoule for the first time without a vessel wall becoming too hot. So this is why they have this trapped into this magnetic field, for the plasma not hitting the vessel walls becoming too hot. And I think they now installed new isolating, whatever that was, material. And as far as I know, so I think they sent this microwave stuff in from the next building. So that is of course crazy. Microwave building. So they have some microwave generator next door or something. Let's see, can we even, or maybe Wikipedia or that. Anyway, this long becomes as usual as we are trapped into the 4 megawatt microwave heater pulses here live on short 1.3 megawatt pulses. The heating system includes 10 megawatt of microwaves for electron, cyclotron, resonance heating, which can operate continuously and can deliver 80 megajoules in the operation phase 1.2. Operation phase began 2015 for the initial test with about one something milligram, or I don't know, helium gas injected in the evacuated plasma vessel. Microwave heating was applied for a short 1.3 megawatt pulse. There you see, what do we need all the... Yeah, so I mean, even this, one of the most outstanding research reactors, even this so far as I understand, probably only consumed lots of energy and they patented. But anyway, do we even still have someone watching this random stuff? Anyway, only here live on this channel. In last but not least, this is also really crazy news. Apparently, allegedly to this news revealed, Google made large contributions to climate change deniers. And there you see, after Apple censoring and banning this app in the App Store, we have other major companies that always pretend they are the latest and greatest and cutest and most loved and don't do evil, only do good and other fun stuff. And this is hilarious. Why this kind of companies need to donate substantial contributions to some of the most notorious climate change deniers in Washington is out of my scope of understanding, and certainly why we can't have nice things. And even feeding those trolls. I mean, even Google and Apple that want to be hip, and what was it here, to quote here, the pro-freedom, you all love, pro-privacy hippie, donating to apparently allegedly substantial contributions to climate change deniers. I rest my case. 2019, why we can't have nice things. And still people believe this. Oops, only live on this channel. My Club Mate, not sponsored advertisement on the table. So now I have sticky fingers of can't mic this shit up. Anyway, it's hilarious. That's the latest insecure and IT news and other not so amazing news this week. Hope you learned something. Now I need to wipe the lemonade off of my table. Hope to see you soon for the next fun stuff and live streams and videos to come. And as usual, if you have any comments to all this craziness, leave it below. And also, if you have ideas how we can make this videos and streams more amazing, looking forward to hear from you. And yeah, I'm still a little bit torn myself between making smaller segments and a weekly summary. Still not sure what is the best format, especially as crazy as the news get. But anyway, looking forward to your comments, and I hope to see you soon for all those amazing collection of random garbage and insecurities this week.